There's a person you used to know, maybe a roommate who could dismantle any argument in under 30 seconds, a coworker who saw where a project would fail 2 months before anyone else, someone from your hometown tuned to a frequency the rest of the room could not hear. You search their name today and find nothing recent, no posts, no updates, no hot takes. They did not fail. They did not burn out in any visible way. They simply receded like a tide going out. This is not random. It is one of the most consistent patterns in the history of human achievement, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The trajectory is almost always the same. Someone genuinely unusual, not just book smart, but built to think in systems, to see second and third order consequences, to ask questions that make a room uncomfortable. They are visible in their 20s, driven, maybe even ambitious in the conventional sense. And then, somewhere in their 30s or 40s, something turns. The energy that used to climb the ladder, build the network, stay legible, goes inward, into a book, into a project nobody else understands yet, into silence. Newton did the work that became his theory of gravitation alone at his family farm in Lincolnshire during the plague years. 2 years of uninterrupted thinking. He called it his miraculous year. The world got calculus out of that solitude. Thoreau walked away from Concord at 27 and spent 2 years at Walden Pond. People thought he had lost his mind. What he produced shaped American philosophy for 2 centuries. Pynchon, Salinger, Perelman, who refused both the Fields Medal and $1 million prize and walked out of academia entirely. The pattern is everywhere, and it begs an honest question. Is this a symptom of something going wrong, or is it something going profoundly, quietly right? Carl Jung had an answer, and it remains one of the most underrated frameworks in 20th century psychology. Jung spent his life studying not just the individual mind, but the shared mental architecture every human inherits. He called it the collective unconscious. Imagine the human brain coming preloaded with software, instincts, inherited patterns of thinking and feeling, frameworks baked in over thousands of years of evolution and culture before you ever consciously chose to believe anything. A massive amount of your worldview was already installed. Jung's observation, and this is the part that gets uncomfortable, was that most people spend their entire lives running that pre-installed software. They want what they were told to want. They fear what they were told to fear. They measure success by metrics handed to them by their parents, their culture, their employer, their feed. And they do all of this while genuinely believing they are making independent choices. Jung called this state identification with the collective, so merged with the shared script that you mistake it for your own voice. Highly intelligent people, and here precision matters, not just high IQ, but people with strong internal awareness and persistent curiosity, tend at some point to notice the script. They start seeing the machinery behind the curtain. A lot of what passes for opinion is recycled assumption. A lot of what passes for ambition is programmed anxiety. Once you see that, you cannot unsee it. Jung called the process of stepping out of this collective programming individuation. The slow, often painful work of becoming who you actually are rather than who you were designed to be. And society does not like individuation. Society needs predictability. When someone deviates, the collective pushes back subtly. You are too much. You are overthinking. You are not realistic. You are difficult to work with. Then there is the cost. Nobody names directly. Translation exhaustion. When you think in systems, when your mind builds models without being asked, when you hold complexity without needing to resolve it prematurely, every interaction requires translation. You compress multi-layered thought into a digestible soundbite. You strip the qualifications because people find them tedious. You lose the nuance because nuance reads as evasion. You say it is complicated and watch eyes glaze over. You say something simple and feel a small internal betrayal dozens of times a day, every meeting, every dinner, every casual exchange. This is where Jung's concept of the persona becomes critical. The persona is the mask we wear for society. For most people, the gap between mask and self is manageable. The mask fits reasonably well. But for someone whose natural way of engaging is deeply out of step with what most environments reward, the mask becomes suffocating. You sit in a meeting watching a strategy with 3 obvious fatal flaws get approved because the last time you raised concerns this early, you were quietly labeled negative. You watch it fail 6 months later, exactly as predicted, and a small part of you dies. The performance becomes untenable, so you stop. You trade the external performance for something internal. You get quieter, harder to reach, still very much alive, just investing the energy somewhere that does not ask you to be less. There's one more layer. Highly intelligent people make others feel exposed, not deliberately, just by existing at their natural level. Researchers studying social cognition have found that intellectual comparison activates threat responses in a way that physical or financial comparison often does not. Your thinking is bound up with your sense of self. When someone challenges the quality of that thinking, even silently, even without a word, they are touching identity. So the defense rises, and the defense rarely looks like defense. It looks like dismissal. They are too theoretical, not practical, have no emotional intelligence. Sure, they are smart, but Jung called this shadow projection. When someone's presence highlights your unexamined assumptions, the mind does not always say, "I should think harder." Sometimes it says, there is something wrong with them. The intelligent person hasn't claimed superiority. They have just shown up at their natural level and become an uncomfortable mirror. Socrates was executed because his questions made people feel stupid. Turing, who arguably shortened a world war by years, was destroyed by the same government he saved. In ordinary daily life, the persecution is more mundane. You get talked over. Your ideas get credited to someone with a better personality. You are told to work on your communication style, which usually means stop making us feel like we are not following you. So the intelligent person looks around and makes a quiet assessment. The game is not designed for me to win it honestly. And rather than compromise, they stop playing. The withdrawal that looks like failure from outside is often from inside, the beginning of the most important work a person will ever do. In 1923, Jung built a stone tower with his own hands in the Swiss village of Bollingen. No telephone, no electricity. He wrote by candlelight, cooked over an open fire, and spent long stretches there alone. His colleagues thought he was breaking down. Jung said simply that Bollingen was the only place where he could hear himself think. The work he did in that solitude, individuation, the shadow, the archetype, became the foundation of how we now understand human development, not despite the withdrawal, because of it. If you feel a pull toward a quieter life lately, a slow drift away from conversations that used to matter, a preference for your own company that feels more like relief than depression, this is not pathology. The pull toward solitude, when it comes from intellectual vitality rather than despair, is the psyche saying, you need more room. The question is not whether to withdraw. The question is whether you are doing it on purpose or just drifting, whether you are building something in the quiet or only hiding from the loud. The people whose ideas end up shaping the world are almost never the people who were most visible during their lifetimes. They are the ones who are willing to be invisible long enough to do the real work. Build the tower, do the work. The world has a way of catching up.